and welcome to Educumi's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh and today we shall discuss the Gazette magazine for 27th August 2021, your daily guide to UPSC current affairs. Now, the hot selling articles in the market today are 1. A Niti Aayog report on the index, Sustainable Development Goal Index for the Northeastern region for the first time, and therefore becomes very important. The second one is the new drone policy of the government. The third one is scale panel recommendations relating to export and manufacturing products, also released by Ministry of Commerce. This day in history is dedicated to Krakatoa Islands. We will come to know why. The featured news for today is on informal sector in waste management, and this will be a separate video. Now, only yesterday we discussed the solid waste management system. However, we purposefully skipped the informal sector participation in waste management. Why? Because their participation, especially in developing economies, in waste management is humongous. The impact in multiple ways, and therefore we will understand in this article what is the whole supply chain of informal sector in waste management. After that, we will also discuss which are the ways in which they get affected in this kind of economic setup, right? So social impacts and economic impacts and how they can be improved upon. So this is a very important featured news. This is covered in a separate video. Rest of the Gazette discussion will be on a separate video. Image of the day is on umbrella grass species. Now, this is a technique of bioremediation being used in Delhi. We will understand what it is. Terms and concept for today. The first one is PM Swanidhi program, an update on the same. The second one is India size. What is this survey about? We will understand. The third one is Samrit scheme, and the fourth one, an update on eSanjeevani. The editorials that we discuss for today are first. The first one deals with capitalism and how government wants it to be reframed in a country like India. The second one is about the policy of the government and the issues with data collection. The third one is on how pandemic has affected different communities at different levels. Case study of the day is from Karnataka. It talks about education reforms. We have dedicated this day in history to Krakatoa Islands in Indonesia. Why? Because it was on this day, August 27th, 1883, that the highest recorded volcano, they erupted in these islands only, right? It resulted in the death of around 36,000 people. Almost 32,000 people, they died because of the tsunami which ensued just after the volcanic eruption. The tsunami itself was 120-foot high tsunami. Also, the volcano was so powerful that its sound was heard almost 5,000 kilometers away, and it led to the ejection of material as high as 50 miles into the air. So this was the intensity of this Krakatoa Island volcano. Snapshot 1 is on Niti Aayog's Sustainable Development Goal Index report for the Northeast region. It has been published for the first time to ensure that there is progress in development on Sustainable Development Goal parameters in the Northeast region, right? So it has been released by Niti Aayog and Ministry for Development of the Northeast region, right? The important thing about this report is that it highlights the parameters of SDG in not the 17 goals of SDG, but 15 goals only. Two particular goals, SDG 4, that is life below water, and second, SDG 17, that is partnership for achieving these goals. So partnership with various organizations to be able to achieve the 16 goals. These two have been excluded out because they are not relevant for the Northeast region, right? Now, 8 states have participated. We know the 8 sister states, all the 7 states along with Sikkim. The states have been ranked along with these 4 dimensions. So aspirant states, or performer, front runner, or achiever states. And all the states, they ranked in performer category or front runner category. Now, the most important thing to understand about any kind of index, for example, aspirational districts also are rating different districts, and this is again a rating of different districts. So what is the main agenda? This is where I would quickly want you to focus on this part. Now, firstly, through these kind of schemes, rating, we monitor at district level, at a very minute level, we monitor the working mechanism of all the different departments. Second, we strengthen the monitoring tool, right? So all the government programs are strengthened through this. We will also be able to understand the gaps, the sectoral gaps in various places where there is inefficiency in performance, and accordingly, there is further allocation for the future, because only after understanding the gaps the future allocations will be made. Also, what about the rankings? There is a comparison between one particular state, one district, and another state and another district, right? So this generates a healthy competition, and through this healthy competition people also learn, right? So one district will learn the best practices of another district. So this is a very beautiful tool of having ratings for the various districts in the northeast region, right? East Sikkim district has topped the list, and Nagaland's Kifaya district is at the bottom of this survey. Snapshot 2 is on new drone policy. India, having understood the importance of drones in the commerce business, has initiated a new drone policy. This drone policy is a liberalized regime which will not need a security clearance before we purchase the drones. Now, this is for the civilian drone operations. Now, important things about this new reform is that people will have to fill less number of forms as compared to the forms that they would have had to fill previously. Also, the amount of fees that they had to give was different for different kind of drones. For heavy drones and lesser weight drone, the amount was different. However, now the amount is same for all the kind of drones. Also, now since the drone weight has been increased here to 500 kilos, this has led to paving the way for drone taxis, right? So a bike ideally weighs 150, 180, 200 kilos, and a human weighs 100 kilos. If a drone is for 500 kilos, why cannot it airlift a human and take them away? So this is what the minister says, that it can actually pave way for drone taxis. Now, a network will be drawn on the air. So Digital Sky platform will be used to understand which is the free space in air and where drones can fly, what drones are flying at what place at what particular time. So this Digital Sky platform will be initiated in this new drone policy. Also, there will be zones drawn. So yellow zone, green zone and red zone. Red zone is the place where drones will be a no-go area, and then yellow zone where there will be restrictions, and green zone where the drones can fly unrestricted up to a height of 120 meters, right? So this yellow zone is earlier the distance was 45 kilometers away from the airport, and now this is only 12 kilometers away from the airport. So we see a fairly relaxed regime. Why has the government introduced this? The government has seen that there is a huge potential of commerce with the help of drones, and that is why the government has increased this policy. The government has also introduced a policy to be able to export drones, right? Now, earlier when people used to purchase drones, they would have had to take a unique identification number, just like registration numbers. Now, they will not have to do anything. Now, the manufacturers themselves will provide them an identification number for the drone, right? So there will be testing of the drones in India for use in India. However, if they have to be exported, these test type certificates will not be utilized, right? Also, there is a standard operating procedure which will be released so that people could self-monitor their drones, right? So government surveillance will be restricted. Okay, now if people need certain kind of permission, it will be all e-governance led. So it will be self-generated, and there will be minimum level of human interference in getting this kind of approval, right? They will also be used for cargo deliveries in the country, and there's no restriction on foreign ownership of these kind of drones. Remember, we are talking of the civilian drones. This is where you must be little confused. What would happen to the government and important buildings, right? If we have this kind of liberalized regime, what will happen to this kind of infrastructure which the government needs to protect? We have discussed in one of the featured articles what happened in Jammu, the kind of drone attacks that happened there. And therefore, let me bring you to a quick understanding about the anti-drone guidelines that the government released 2 years back. This is about protecting three kinds of infrastructure. The critical infrastructure, for example, the Rashtrapati Bhavan, the home of the Prime Minister, the nuclear installations. The second level important infrastructure are the metro stations, the PSUs, right, public sector units. And the third one are government buildings, secretariat buildings, monuments, and certain important archaeological sites. So government, in lieu of protection of these places, what it will do a vulnerability analysis of these places, and after that it will have a defense mechanism to protect all these places, right? So they might have laser weapons, we might have jamming technologies to jam the weapons of this particular device, we might shoot them down, shoot these devices down, we might have fencing and web technology by which we will be able to capture these kind of drones. So this is for defense of the country, and rest for liberalized regime for civilian use is what we just studied. Snapshot 3 is on scale panel recommendations. This is from the Ministry of Commerce. SCALE stands for Steering Committee for Advancing Local Value Add and Exports. Now, this is specifically related to the manufacturing sector. The main idea is to increase the manufacturing of certain kind of products which can be exported from the country, and therefore we have set up a guideline to double our manufacturing over the next 5 years. To double our manufacturing over the next 5 years and reduce imports proportionally by 2/3, right? So this is how the whole mechanism will be set up. Now, the government has identified 24 different products which include auto components, textiles, marine products, farm and farm produce products, electric vehicles, toys and furniture. So these are the kind of products which are high lucrative items which can be manufactured in the country and which can later be exported out, right? So India can actually become a hub for electronics and semiconductor industry. We also studied this in the circular economy, right, in one of the features. Also, the export hubs must be set near the ports. So a guideline has been released by this particular recommendation, right? It also talks about brand building exercise of Indian products abroad, right? Post-bait processing parks for value addition. So these some mother plants by multinational companies in auto industries ought to be set up. So these are certain guidelines. But why is it important to have this kind of manufacturing setup in India? You know why? Because India's GDP has been stuck to 16% of the total GDP, right? GDP in manufacturing is stuck to 16% for a lot of time. We got to increase this. And you know, one more important thing, if the manufacturing GDP is increased, if manufacturing jobs are increased, it will actually lead to more employment. Why? Because if people start earning because of production of these kind of gadgets and devices, the products, actual products, people will have more money at hand and they will have more service sector economy, investment and consumption as well. So they will generate a lot of other jobs in service sector again. So this one job in manufacturing can lead to 2 to 3 jobs in service sector. So this is the added advantage. And if we start exporting, we will have additional advantages, for example, forex reserve. So this is the main utility of this kind of initiative. Image of the day today is on umbrella grass species. Now these are grass species which have been planted at Sanjay Van in Delhi. Around 4,000 of them have been planted. And what is the utility? They will clean this area. So they are like floating wetlands. How will they clean the area? Firstly, there will be aeration technology also used. So this will inject some amount of air, oxygen in the water. And then we will also have some living modified organisms, LMOs. So there will be certain bacteria, and these bacteria will take in oxygen, they will reproduce, and after that they will be expelling the ammonia, they will be expelling the methane present in this kind of marine setup, right? So this is one way it is going to clean the whole area. Also, this wetland of these plants, umbrella grass species, they will themselves clean the whole area of the dust and the stink of the water. So do remember umbrella grass species. First term in news is the PM Swanidhi program. Now, what is Swanidhi? Swanidhi stands for Street Vendors Atmanirbhar Nidhi, PM Swanidhi. The main agenda of this program was to help the street vendors get back up after the corona crisis. So the government is giving them affordable collateral free capital loans. So loans up to 10,000 rupees per year are being given. If they are able to give that the amount in time, they will also be eligible for more loans. So why is this scheme in news? Why is PM Swanidhi in news? It is in news because this time the RBI has initiated the Payment Infrastructure Development Fund at the tier 1 and 2 centers as well. Earlier it had the scheme at tier 3 to 6. Now what is this Payment Infrastructure Development Fund? Now when the government has promised 10,000 rupees to them per year, right, due to COVID crisis and how they should be able to resume their business, there have to be places where they can take out money from. So they will initiate these physical and digital infrastructure under the scheme Payment Infrastructure Development Fund, so that people are able to take out money, right? So this is the update. This is under Ministry of Housing Affairs. The second term in news is India Size. What is India Size? India Size is a India-wide survey, a survey of the kind of clothes we wear, of the size of the clothes that we wear. This survey will ensure that India will have its own size chart. Right now, the size chart that we use is global. So, for example, a person in America might be wearing a medium-sized shirt, and that might fit as a large size shirt in India, because our ethnicity is different, our height largely is different. So this survey is being carried out where people of different income background, people of different ethnicity in India itself, people of different age and gender will be wearing clothes, and based on that we will try to standardize the clothing size in the country. Also, this is being run under Ministry of Textiles and NIFT, right? Important to note is that this is under Fiber to Fashion initiative. Third term in news is Samrid scheme. This is a new scheme which has been initiated by Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. There is a full form of Samrid, which is Startup Accelerator of MeitY for Product Innovation and Development and Growth. Now, this initiative is for startups in the software sector. So, Indian software product startups. The main idea is to give them funding support and also to train these individuals, because this is how India will be able to have more unicorns, more successful startups in the country. Unicorns are those startups which have valuation more than $1 billion, and India has become the third largest unicorn hub in the whole world. So the idea is to support 300 such startups by giving them at most 40 lakh rupees, right? This amount will be given to them after survey over a period of 3 years. Also, the startup itself will have to match the amount of fund this particular scheme is giving. The fourth term in news is eSanjeevani. It is the national telemedicine service of the government. Now, the doctor to patient interactions can happen at remote locations through health and wellness centers. It is a very simple technology by which one can get a token, register themselves, and then they can log in. After being in the waiting room, they will have the access to the doctor and they can consult the doctor. The most important part about this and the reason why it is in news is because the Sanjeevani scheme has had 1 crore of consultations, 1 crore of teleconsultations, and during the times of COVID, this is a boon. Now, more than 700 districts in the country have availed this eSanjeevani services, and more than 50% of consumer of this service are females, which is a very good indicator. Although the country has less than 50% of digital penetration, so you can see the coming of two opposites together, right? Welcome to the editorial section. The first editorial is on time to redress capitalist enterprises. Let us discuss this. The editorial starts by saying that one of the cabinet ministers in the government of India pointed that industry is not participating in serving the country. In fact, industry is serving its own purpose. This is something that was indicated by Donald Trump 4 years back when he said that the industry sector in USA is not creating jobs and it is not even paying taxes. The editorial points out to Japan after World War II. It also points out at Korea in 1950s, and then also J.R.D. Tata. These all people tried to reform the country along with developing their own business. In fact, it gives the example of Tata. Whenever he would be in confusion whether this decision is correct for his company or not, he would only think of the country, whether this will be good for the country or not. And eventually, that decision taken in favor of the country would turn out to be in favor of his organization as well. So these are the ways that the big organizations, that these countries managed, right? They were designing their capitalism for the welfare of the country, right? Nowadays, economics has defined business of business to be to serve their own interest, to serve the interest of the investors. The business of business should not be welfare. The business of business should be to serve the investors, right? And they also say that the role of state in this capitalism be minimum, right? Now, there are various demands from the government itself, from various governments, USA, UK and USSR. They all at a time said that the role of the government should be minimal in the capitalist economy, right? But it also again points out at 2007 when the Prime Minister of India said that the corporates are trustees of social wealth. They are not owners, and they must not have a vulgar display of wealth in a country like India, in a poor country of India. Now, so this is what the Prime Minister, erstwhile Prime Minister Mr. Singh had said, right? The government has an important duty. The duty of the government is to ensure the well-being of the people, right? And it also has to ensure that taxes are paid. The government has to provide jobs. These are the various things that the government has to do, but the government needs the support of the capitalist economy for this, because the capitalist economy is the one which will provide jobs. It will also pay taxes. It will also buy the local products, right? Now, the demand of the people in the country is ease of living, and the demand of the private sector is ease of doing business. Now government has to balance between all of this. The editorial concludes by saying that IPCC has said that this is code red for the humanity, right? And code red has happened only because of these kind of institutions, these kind of capitalist institutions, and therefore the kind of gimmick, the kind of drama that they do through corporate social responsibility, through environmental and social governance, these are not enough, because at the end what people view is the stock market performance. What people view is the profits they kind of generate, and these profits go to the pocket of whom? These profit and stock market prices, they go in the pockets of the investors, right? And therefore this does not serve the purpose. The idea should be to have social enterprises, real social enterprises, which work on the well-being of the people, right? And this is how public rankings should be revealed. They should be released in this manner, that social enterprises work on the well-being of the people, right? Government performance also should be decided on the environment and citizenship basis, right? Sustainability of environment and sustainability of citizens, not on the basis of the growth of GDP. The second editorial is on the policy gaps which happen because of the data regime in the country. The editorial starts by saying that technology, data and internet, these three components have led to collection of huge amount of data on the citizens, and on the basis of this only policies are made. Policies and budgeting is made to reduce inequalities among the people. But there is one important presupposition. We have supposed that this data is reliable, that this data is valid and robust. However, it may not be so. For example, a lot of fund which moves below the level of blocks, below the level of district and blocks, they are not tracked, but still they are put in the government documents, right? So this is complete opacity of the kind of funds that are moving, and therefore this data of funds is not valuable, not valid, right? Similarly, the editorial gives examples of COVID cases, COVID testing cases. There were a lot of cases found in South India as compared to the North India counterpart. The reason was not that there were more cases in South India. In fact, North India also could have had more cases. The actual issue here was that South India had more testing facilities and North India had less testing facilities. We did not take into account this context of the facilities presented. We only took the quantitative data and set policies for us. So this is not correct. Similar example, the editorial has said of 2012 study on the quality of governance. One important parameter was law and order and police behavior, right? And police behavior was given full marks. But was the police behavior actually right in 2012? Not sure. The people would have feared to give this kind of feedback to police, and this is why we achieved a different data altogether. The editorial again says, another example it gives of mental health. A lot of people are not open to talk about the mental health because they face a social stigma, and this is why we do not correct actual data. Very similar in domestic violence cases, very similar in crimes against women. People don't come out in open and talk about these issues, right? Therefore, quantitative data collection should go beyond the collection of data, mere collection of data. We should get into qualitative collection of data. It should also talk about the subjectivity and the context in which data has been created, in which data has been generated and information has been created, because that is the way we'll be able to effectively have policies. We will be able to reduce the gap in policy through good kind of data collection. This is where the editorial says that decentralized level of creation of data becomes very important. The third editorial talks about the economic fallout of the pandemic on different communities in our country. The editorial starts by talking about a political issue of deprivation of a particular community. They were blamed for being the super spreader of COVID. They were blamed against protection of cows. They were blamed for love jihad. And then the editorial says that have we actually noted that during the times of COVID, we have deprived certain people of their privileges, right? It points out to the periodic labor force survey report, where the employment structure and earnings are spoken of the various communities of the country, various genders at rural and urban areas. Then the editorial delves into a huge level of data analysis and understanding. The crux of it is that the scheduled tribe and scheduled caste community, the Muslim community and the other community, now these communities faced a lot of deprivation of employment. So Muslim community just before the pandemic had 8% of unemployment, and just after the pandemic hit the quarter, there was 27% unemployment. Also, in the urban areas, we see because of strict lockdown, there was almost 40% unemployment in the urban areas, in the urban community. So this was very much in the urban areas, right? It points to women and men both. The unemployment was 6% before in women, and later after pandemic it reached the levels of 44% in women, right? So this is how it points out that specific communities were targeted very much when we see the effect of pandemic on the different communities in the country, right? Now it points out at a fact that women were marginally higher in deficient in earnings than men, but their net number of jobs only were less, right? So the deficit in the earnings that happened after pandemic hit, that was not as much in women as compared to the jobs that they lost as compared to men. Also because women actually were employed less in number as compared to men, right? So this is the editorial. Case study of the day is from Karnataka's Vidya Gama program. Now this program has discouraged rote learning, the traditional technique of learning in India, which has cut children off from the actual system, organic system of learning in the world. It has encouraged activity-based and outdoor learning, and this is on the Santiniketan model of learning, right? And this is how students can start making inquiries about various questions that they have, right? It gives them new perspective, it gives them ownership, and they learn the education, they learn the value of wisdom. In fact, this model in Karnataka has used a new innovative way in which education be imparted, right? So what it has done, it has grouped these children in 20-25 groups, and there will be a mentor for these students. The mentor will look after if the students are into self mode of preparation or not, because during the times of COVID, the children are at home, and therefore the mentor will be from the community. They will keep a check if the students are studying at home or not. Midday meal scheme will be working, and midday meal will be given to these children at their home. So this is a beautiful point, and a teacher will be selected from their community, a person who can teach them from their own community, and the children will be grouped based on the classes they are. So up to 5 class, and then 6 to 8 another group, and then 9-10 another group. So different groupings, and then this is how the mentor and teacher will work with them, right? Also, the technology will be taken into consideration. Now 3 category of students will be made: one with mobile phones, one with internet, and one without either of them. And this is how there will be complete aid structure for the learning of the students. Also, it has been pointed that more than 80% students of these in Karnataka in this particular scheme, they have TVs at home. So TV can also be utilized as an important medium of imparting of education. If you liked our effort, if you like our video, share some love on us through likes, comments, and shares. If you subscribe to the channel, you will receive timely updates. Thanks for watching.